Welcome to Realizing Real Estate. Each week we will be issuing a new edition, an interview with an investor, developer, business leader, government official, scholars, and others, all who in some way impact the world of real estate and the quality of your investment. Real estate has many facets. We will explore many of them in these brief podcasts. Every one of our guests will be interviewed in greater depth and length on our weekly radio show, Our House, which is broadcast every Saturday at 9 a.m. on WBN 9:30 a.m. and 98.5 FM HD3 in the Buffalo Niagara Marketplace, but is accessible anywhere in the world on the Odyssey app or at WBN.com. All of Realizing Real Estate podcasts are available at the iTunes Store, and our House radio shows are archived on our blog at huntrealestate.com. Join us every week and give us your feedback and suggestions for future topics, also at huntrealestate.com. Welcome to Realizing Real Estate. I'm Peter Hunt, and my guest in the studio today is Jim Fink, who is the Economic Development Reporter for Buffalo Toronto Public Media. And we've been talking recently, Jim and I have been, about a wide-ranging of topics relative to the present and future of not just Buffalo, Niagara, but also all of upstate. We're going to continue that discussion for a few minutes today, but before we get into that, Jim, give us a little background on Jim Fink.
Buffalo native. Like many people, I moved away and came back. When I moved back to Buffalo in 87, I started Business First. I was there for 35 and a half years, and now I'm at Buffalo Toronto Public Media. As I say, doing the same journalistic thing, just from a different pew.
Well, it's interesting. You know, you've also had a kind of unique perspective based on your knowledge of the current stable of developers here in this community. How would you rate the state of development in terms of the development community as of today?
The developers are given the current economic landscape. They're very cautious. They're mostly maintaining. They're not really putting too many shovels in the ground. They're having trouble getting financing and penciling out projects these days, as we talked about a little bit earlier. But I think we're a very cautious society, which is not unusual. We've seen these cycles before in Buffalo, where we've gone from highs to lows. Currently, we're in a low, funky period. But does that mean that there's light at the end of the tunnel? Yeah, there is. Is it going to happen overnight? No. But I think sometimes a little bit of caution isn't the worst thing in the world.
Patrick Kaler was my guest on this podcast very recently. He was talking about the lack of a large-scale hotel here in Buffalo, such that it makes it very difficult to attract the larger conventions, because the conventions, people that plan the conventions want not 15 different low hotels. They want maximum of 3, I believe is what he said, and also that they wanted an anchor hotel. We have one such hotel, really. And
the Hyatt.
Well, yes, the Hyatt, but that doesn't have 500 rooms. The only hotel that does is basically mothballed right now. What are your thoughts on that hotel?
And I look at that every day.
I bet you do. It's right out your window.
Yeah, I look at it every day.
What are your thoughts? I mean, is that I've spoken with one of our local political figures, and he's convinced that they can. There's a means by which that they can get that project going again, but it's going to take some effort.
I agree. At this point,
not with the current developer.
No. I'm not gonna say anything about the current developer. I think the city has to step up, maybe take the property through eminent domain.
Eminent domain takes years. There's another means by which it can happen, but go ahead.
Well, I have checked. I mean, the property is current on all its taxes right now.
Well, that's the problem.
Yeah, so the city's limited in what it can and can't do.
It's like the M&A's building.
Yeah, which you look at every day.
I certainly do, unfortunately.
In fact, I can tell you a funny story about my wife and I were in New York City, and I said, humor me. I want to go see their Lanco H&L's headquarters. It was in the Bronx, above, ironically, a Chinese restaurant. It was right out of Hollywood. You walked up 2 flights of stairs. There was a door there. There was mail stacked up, going back to when FDR was president or something. But that was their quote-unquote headquarters.
Yeah, it's a little scary.
Yeah, I mean, those 2 buildings, and the city knows it. I've talked to the acting mayor about it. I've talked to previous administrations about it. They know. They're frustrated because they can't.
Well, there's a process called abandonment, which is what I believe the city is heading towards with the M&A's building right now. But it's a different story with regard to the old Buffalo Grand.
Yeah.
Which has had a series of issues happening. But what we do need, as you know, we do need a concentration of high-quality hotel rooms in the city, excuse me, to complement the other usages that we have.
Think of the handcuffs that Patrick Kaler is dealing with. Limited number of hotel rooms in the downtown core. An older convention center. And I know they spent a lot of money to put a lot of lipstick on it, but it's obsolete. And they, Patrick and Jeff, they do the best job they can do, but
and I must say they've been quite successful.
Yeah,
and they've identified the types of conventions that they can attract here, and we're very competitive in getting those conventions here. And I think the change in the bed tax certainly has been a big help to funding that whole organization, which has been huge.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, given all today's circumstances, they're doing fabulously well. Tomorrow's circumstances will require that we have the right kind of hotel set up in the central business district for that to be attractive to the next group of larger conventions.
And I know Patrick's probably told you this, but more hotel rooms, they opens the door for about 500 potentially more conventions they can go after.
That's true, and we also have to look at...
We're leaving money on the table right now.
Leaving lots of money on the table, but how we've replaced a little bit of that through the series of events. That Buffalo's a great event city. We've got Allentown, we've got a whole series of events all through the nice months of the year. And then in the not-so-nice months of the year, we've got the football team, the hockey team, we've got skiing, we've got the lake, we've got all kinds of things that can draw people here, but they're not going to draw people in tens of thousands. They're going to draw people in any one of those things will not draw the kind of crowd that we need, I guess, on a long-term basis to support the kind of hotel infrastructure we need.
That's true. And it's not just hotel, it's support services.
Right.
I'm going to use this as an example. We have a great fishing infrastructure here.
Certainly. It's one of the best.
You talk to Patrick Haler or Bill Hiltz out in Niagara County. People come from all over they go to Olcott to fish for salmon and walleye.
The river, right in the river.
Yeah. But they don't have the hotel rooms there. They don't have the hotel rooms in Buffalo.
So they drive to and they go back.
Yeah. So they're here. It's kind of like the Niagara Falls, and they come to Niagara Falls, they ride the Maid of the Mist, and then they go back.
Well, I guess the number of overnight stays is proportionate to the total number of visitors is ridiculously low, and that's something that hopefully we can change over time. But it requires, I think, a broader vision that not just one person in Patrick Kaler can have. But let's jump over to go back again to talk about the development world, which you're intimately familiar with. What will turn that around in your opinion? We've got situations where there's an article in your former publication, Business First, about the number of liens that have been placed on projects in downtown right now, and not just in downtown, but outside of downtown. And it's not a good list.
No, and you know, in any development project, there's always going to be a certain number of liens attached. I think developers kind of pencil that into their business plan. But the number of liens, it's kind of a snapshot of the economy right now, because subcontractors aren't getting paid, and
let's put it this way. You said it. Developers will take as long as they can possibly take to pay everybody,
And then they'll
That's just cash management.
Yeah, and in some cases, some developers try to whittle it down to 40 cents on the dollar.
Yeah, it's called value engineering, I think, in a classic sense. But
it's called something.
After the fact value engineering, which is not necessarily the best for the contractors involved. But long story short, do you see? Are you optimistic about these projects turning around and a new level of development taking place here that reflects market conditions? Frankly, I don't see interest rates getting much lower for some time. So either the developers are adapt or rents have to go up or something has to adjust here. Do you see an equilibrium, a new equilibrium out there somehow?
Not yet. We need to get our swagger back. We need to believe in ourselves and believe in Buffalo. When I say Buffalo, I mean the region. We're also very much what I call a lemming community. Everybody lines up to be number two. So you need that first person out there to say, all right, I'm going to take that risk, and hopefully it works out.
Well, didn't we have that person in Doug Jamal and
we put too many eggs in his basket.
Even Nick Sinatra and others that came into town, and Nick came back to town and with lots of swagger and lots of ideas, and weren't the brakes put on pretty much due to interest rates and
COVID?
COVID, of course. I think that's the worst thing that ever happened to our country, really.
Right, the cost of doing business has risen. Cost of lumber has gone up. Cost of steel has gone up. And we don't have the workforce. As Kathy Holko told me not too long ago, she goes, we don't need any more French lit majors. We need masons. We need steel workers. We need hands-on people.
And is your as you go around the community, do you sense that not the next generation, but the next generation after that, Generation Z or whatever it's called, do you sense that they understand that and that they can see careers in the trades that might cause our own population to fill that void?
Well, you've had Stephen Tucker on here before. He'll tell you a good welder can earn $250,000 a year.
But do you see the interest among the candidates for those positions?
No, because they have to sell it to, and it isn't your father.
So we're not doing a good job of selling it. That whole concept yet. We
You're
can
not,
say it's a great job, but if somebody doesn't see it that way, then they're not going to bother.
Somebody should be going into even the elementary schools and the high schools and saying, "Hey, look this could be your future," and understand. There's a lot of technology involved. You go to the GM plant in Tonawanda, it's not your father's GM plant. They're using computers. They're using all sorts of math and technology that you never realized go into traditional manufacturing. Traditional manufacturing that we thought of in the 30s and 40s is gone. It's now very much computer and high-tech
robotics. I understand Walmart now has completely robotic warehouses and distribution centers.
We're going to see that when the new Amazon Center opens up in Niagara County. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people working there, but the bulk of it's going to be robotics.
So how do we get over this, Jim? We only got a few minutes left here. How do we get over this? How do we speak to the next generations in such a way that the needs of our economy are understood, and being understood, that they can see a real future for themselves as being part of that economy?
Again, I'm going to go back to what you have to start selling it, quite frankly, in the elementary and in the high schools.
Can a program like Say Yes then be part of the answer?
That should be part of their agenda. And it is to a certain
I believe it is.
I mean, Dave Russ does a good job, but he's like an island. He needs more. He can't do it by himself. You need the unions to buy into this. You need everybody to buy into it and to sell it.
I think you're right. I think it's a sales process that we have to sell ourselves first on our vision of the future of this community and really all the upstate communities. We've talked about the Tech Hub before, you and I, and also my other guests on this podcast, and the importance of that. But that again, to your point earlier, it requires people to do those jobs.
Yes.
And they're going to be amazingly good jobs.
You need salesmen.
That's right. We need salespeople who sell the concept of what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jim Fink, the economic development reporter for Buffalo Toronto Public Media. On that sort of pleasant note, I'm going to have to sign off. It's been good having you here.
Thank you for having me, and look forward to doing it again.
Thank our viewers. We'll be back again soon with a new episode.